Hello everybody, hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to more esports talk, a topic we've talked about all year long, that being FaZe Clan and the great and sometimes not so great things they do to put themselves in the limelight out there. This is going to be an audio interview brought to us by The Verge. I will link them down below, guys, with the FaZe CEO, that being Trink. Obviously a big backbone of where they've come to be alongside all of their content creators, all of their pro players. We have talked about them time and time again over the last 12 months. This time though, we talk about three very key topics: the Tfue lawsuit, FaZe Banks trying to control him on social media, and very lastly, trying to get Jarvis unbanned, which Trink brings up in this gigantic interview. Again, will be linked down below if you guys want to give it a listen. And first of all, he actually talks about back to the Tfue lawsuit. Kind of been brought back a little bit ever since we talked about it earlier this year. This lawsuit will continue into 2020. Trink, though, talks about how very obviously this is one of the biggest ever in esports, if not, of course, the biggest, because it's the first of its kind. It involves FaZe Clan, one of the, if not the most well-known esports brands out there currently in the entire scene, also involving Tfue, one of the largest personalities and who plays and competes in one of the largest games we have ever seen across, well, ever since gaming started, and that being Fortnite. It is the trifecta of what drove this controversy to be such a big topic, that being the FaZe Clan versus Tfue lawsuit, which, by the way, Trink not only points to the fact of why it's so big, he also makes sure to clear it up and says they will win the lawsuit. Here's the clip.
How you're dealing with everything going on with the case right now.
So I'll say a couple of things. One is, it's not so new for me because in the record business, you have artists that sue labels.
Yeah.
And it's not uncommon. But they weren't, I don't think the lawsuits were common. And I think the reason why it was such big news in gaming, it was really the first one. And here you have, it was perfect for everybody, right? Maybe except for us, where you've got a clash of the titans. You have the biggest gaming org and the biggest gaming streamer, the biggest pro in the world in a very public, very ugly fight. And everybody, and it was at the right time when esports was a really buzzy term, and there was starting to be global news, so everybody commented on it. But what I would say a lot is, this is not uncommon in basketball or football, and by the time we have the third one, it won't be global, earth-shattering news. The relationship with the fans takes paramount importance to what the lawsuit, what happens with the lawsuit. Although we plan on winning the lawsuit.
Yeah. I mean, you're like a DA.
I was a DA.
You're like, I'm going to win the lawsuit.
We're going to win the lawsuit.
And I love when a CEO like this, someone this high up in FaZe Clan, also talks about trying to control another gigantic figure, that being what people widely regard the face, and especially when it comes to the mouth of FaZe Clan, the emotion, the passion behind. Whenever I say those words, you know who I'm talking about. That's going to be FaZe Banks. Trink adds a tiny bit of what it's like to try and control FaZe Banks, and at the end of the day, well, sometimes you just can't.
And I want to know what it's like inside that house when you're having meetings and going, how do you tell them not to tweet about it?
Are you like, change your name to a symbol like Prince and get out?
Look, it's a real challenge because emotions are running high and there's this need to defend, right? And it is part of YouTube culture. And it's difficult to balance the nature of that culture and the emotional response that Banks is having with sort of what we should do strategically as a business. What is the best thing to do? Now, happens to be in this, I would say Banks falls into, there were two things that happened. One is there have been moments where I've had to talk to him or somebody else, or we're asking just with a plea of, please put the phone down. Just put it down. I know when you look at it and you read it, you can't help yourself because you're upset. You're understandably upset. But we need to be measured. We need to be coordinated in how we're going to tell our story. Because when it was something that was that big, we had really, there were sort of two different pools. There was the social community, but there was also the traditional media community. And both were coming at us. And there's a way to deal with, and there's a way to tell your story on socials, but there's somewhat of a different way that you need to navigate the traditional media world.
And then a very last point for all of you guys, I thought most peculiar as well. That's why I love listening to all these interviews out there, because they touch on some very important issues as well. That, speaking of which, the first ever Fortnite permanent ban for a prominent figure out there. Of course, that's going to be revolving around FaZe Jarvis, which lead Trink brought up a very curious point no one's talking about. They're actually slowly trying to urge Epic Games, one of the titans out there of gaming developers and gaming companies, they're trying to talk them lightly into reducing the sentence of Jarvis and his lifetime ban from Fortnite.
I would love to know what the conversations with Epic were like. This is a popular player living in a $12 million mansion who's streaming, who generates millions of dollars in streams and gaming tournaments. So that conversation.
So what I'll say is he aspires to be a professional. He wasn't signed as a professional. He was signed as a content creator. He did not make it into Fortnite World Cup, although he came really close. Look, it was brutal. It was tough. It was, but I think it's also important to be sensitive to Epic's issues. You know, do I feel like it was a bridge too far? I do. It's their decision to make, not ours. We respect their rules, but I'm sympathetic to a 17-year-old kid who doesn't cheat during a competition. I'm hopeful that with time, maybe things will change. But we support Jarvis while we don't support what he did.
Are you still having conversations with Epic? You're saying you're hopeful in time it will change. Are you guys talking to Sweeney and the team over there?
We are gently trying to continue the conversation. But also, it's important for us to be respectful.
So just like that, guys, the FaZe CEO, as we head into 2020, still has strong plans for the organization, which have done some amazing things over the past few years, especially this year. Of course, being a part of the Forbes valuation list, they've now climbed the ranks of being one of the most notable, if not by many standards, Nade Shot included, the most valuable esports organization out there. They continue to make moves. Alongside that, their own CEO, and a lot of the time, the strong voice behind them, that being Lee Trink, especially when it comes to the legal suits that FaZe is underway, says they're going to win the battle with Tfue. They're also going to try and unban Jarvis, and alongside that, you just can't control everyone out there. That includes FaZe Banks. I always love covering these guys. They do things so uniquely in this space. But until next time, I hope you guys all enjoy breaking down esports gaming news here every single day, all day long. Until next time, take care of yourselves. I'll see you back here sometime soon.